Welcome to Travel Again Presents, the weekly travel roundup covering the headwinds and tailwinds impacting the business of travel. Please welcome our hosts, Mike McCormick and Ed Silver. Hello, Mike.
Hello, Ed.
How you doing today?
Can't be better.
Can't be better. It's always good to be back with you. And once again, we're back very quickly. We were together last week with a great episode and a fantastic speaker. For our listeners, don't forget to go listen and subscribe so you never miss one of our podcasts.
No doubt that, they talk about summer slowdown, not happening here at Travel Again. Things are busy, but actually, you know what, for the travel industry, we're going to have a record summer in terms of travelers and certainly people moving through TSA. So no surprise if the industry is busy, then so are we. So great to be back. Before we get started, I want to remind everybody again about our new website launch. Our site allows you to really dive into Travel Again for our expert travel consulting services, the can't miss episodes of our podcast, some really good industry insight. We say all the time that we bring clarity to chaos for the industry and for your business. But if you need any help, and everybody could probably use a little help, give us a call. But happy with our website and a chance to kind of bring together all that content in one place.
Thank you, Mike, for that reminder. Again, it's travelagainadvisory.com, and feel free to go there to see all the articles we cover, as well as the latest news and podcasts. All right, Mike. Let's get rolling with episode 8. You ready?
I'm ready. Let's bring on the news.
All right, on to the news. First up in the news, Amtrav. Article in CNBC. SoftBank-backed travel tech firm TravelPerk acquires U.S. rival and bags $135 million for expansion. We had Jeff Klee on.
Yes, we did.
Not that long ago, so feel free to go check out that episode. But congrats to the team at Amtrav. Mike, how about some perspective on why TravelPerk would acquire Amtrav and what it means for more consolidation?
Yeah, there's a bunch to unpack here. You hit on a few things. Aside from the fact that, once again, as the kind of history is shown with the industry, that for a lot of times for companies to expand globally, and certainly to enter the U.S. market, an acquisition is often the best way to do that, right? In terms of time, just getting to market fast, having a base of customers. We had we were on with Flight Center, right? And that's the way they entered the market here, both in leisure and in corporate. It's a trend, right? That's been around for as long as the industry's been around, post deregulation, right? That's just the way it works. But interesting, a few things here. One is the acquisition. Two is they've additionally took in another $135 million. So once again showing that certainly corporate travel is a big money game. And some of the commentary we've had before about how you can compete in this market where that $135 million and certainly, all the resources, they're going to, developers and code and product, not so much agents per se. Not that you continue to have servicing and needs and needing qualified agents, but you look at what the cost of working in that marketplace is and how there's a real big divide here between the big players who have the money to spend on tech and the increasing needs that are coming with AI, et cetera, and what that all means. So, and for TravelPerk, the other dynamic here is, again, entering the U.S. market in a significant way.
That's right.
European-based have worked to build their business, a European core base of business there, but, looking to expand, looking to compete. Again, U.S. is still the biggest corporate travel market per se. Going back pre-pandemic, China was surpassing the U.S. and had surpassed the U.S. in terms of size of market overall for travel. But a lot of that market, more of that market, the China market, was leisure-based. U.S. for corporate is still a huge, huge market and very competitive. And certainly our guest today will have a lot to talk about that market, and very timely again as well. So love that all these things are happening, and we're certainly talking to the leaders that are involved in it. So again, exciting times, and certainly again, congrats to the Amtrav team again. It's always great to see that. And I think I think they found a good marriage there, because Amtrav was very focused in their way, although they were smaller in size compared to the real big players in the corporate travel space. In our conversations with Jeff, I mean, they were in their own way, spending more and more of the resources devoted to technology. They were a leader in NDC. So again, probably a really nice fit, I think, in terms of certainly from the outside looking in. So we'll see what happens and what that does in terms of the marketplace here in the U.S.
Very good. Again, congrats to the team. And if you have time, go read some of the stories about Jeff and his partner, founding Amtrav. It's a great entrepreneur story. Yeah. I know a lot of entrepreneurs listen to our podcast in travel. I know travel can be, tough to enter, but a great kind of entrepreneur founder, kind of story. So congrats to the team, and congrats to Travel Perk. All right. Yeah. Mike, our next article I've chosen, and last week we talked about Apple as well, but I couldn't help myself. This time, Apple is shutting down Apple Pay later, just months after launch. Apple fully rolled out its buy now, pay later service in October of 2023, but it's now going away. We had Tom Botts from Uplift on not that long ago, and we talked about Apple entering the market for buy now, pay later, and he did not seem one bit concerned at the time, and sounds like that was, pretty right on for him.
Sage advice or sage forecast there. Yeah.
Yeah. Any thoughts on what's happening here?
Well, I mean, look, we've talked about it. I think payment is another area that, got a lot of attention a little, going back a year, maybe more. Everybody had a fintech solution. I used to joke when we were talking to clients that, like, I think, my pizza delivery guy had a fintech offering he wanted to, sell me. Everyone had fintech, right? Just like everyone's doing an AI, aspect. So but the realities is that payment and certainly some of these pay later, pay over time vehicles, micro loaning, or whatever you want to call it, like are going to continue to be an area that's going to grow and get explored, because people are always looking for ways on a personal finance side to plan and stretch out their funds and their budgets. And certainly from a supplier side, when you're on the selling side, anything you can do to stimulate growth, to bring new customers to the table, to open new markets, etc. And using different payment vehicles can be a way to do that. So interesting that they got in and out so quickly. I don't know if that's is there some clouds on the horizon? We talked about whether the credit bureaus are going to get more active in demanding that, and requiring that some of this micro kind of lending gets reported on people's credit reports, because that's some of the advantages today. You can do some of those things and it doesn't hit your credit, or have a hard hit on your credit. So some of those things are still kind of working out. It'll be interesting to see where it all falls, but it certainly has been a big growth part of the travel market. And again, payment vehicles are a key part of how it all gets done. So again, interesting stuff, but interesting that Apple has certainly their view of it certainly hasn't, they clearly pulled out for a reason. So we'll be curious to get more information as that unfolds. And will they get back in again at some point?
Yeah, this didn't hit major news outlets. It was reported by one of my favorite, tech websites, The Verge. I'll try to find more articles and post them to our website if I find them. But it was sort of under the radar, as Apple likes to do sometimes.
Yeah, I was just wondering, is that one of those ones from a PR perspective? They like announced it on a Friday afternoon, it's kind of buried in the news feed somewhere, because the last thing they want to do is, talk about how they pulled out of a market, particularly with all the, new news about Apple Intelligence that we covered last week, right?
That's right. All right, Mike, I have one more story for us today, and this one's an interesting one. The FAA will craft regulations for public air charters. This was reported in Travel Weekly. The FAA plans to move forward expeditiously with regulations that would require public air charters to operate under the same safety rules as large commercial airlines. Tell us your thoughts, because I have some.
Well, why don't you go first? I've got a real different perspective on this one, but why don't you take a crack at it first?
I don't know why more regulation is needed here. I don't know why they would feel the need to add extra TSA regulations, extra screening. Like maybe there's a safety element to it, but I think that the beauty of private air charter is that it's seamless, it's easy. Yes, I understand you get to fly on your own private plane, so that's super nice. But why complicate the matters with using these services? They're great services. If you ever use JSX, and our friend Dave, just went to a new one. So I don't see why regulation is needed here.
So my perspective is a little different because it's what we don't know. And so going back a little bit, I was part of a group that and chaired a risk-based committee that advised TSA when we were in the early days of forming what's now PreCheck and Global Entry. And when I was part of that process and working really closely with TSA and the whole team there at the time, I had to get my security clearance, and let's just say the things that you learn, it's almost like you wish you hadn't learned about the threats that are ongoing every day, that these dedicated government workers are out there really truly protecting our borders and protecting the public, right, from ongoing security threats. I do wonder whether this is something that is not just about, the old government red tape, stay out of our business, kind of thing. And there's actually some new concerns that they're trying to address in a responsible way. It's the only thing I can really think of that would say, why this, why now, right? Because otherwise, it'd be like, it's hardly the biggest priority normally in this kind of situation, right? So I would just say, one of those that, like, again, it was interesting that it came up. Now, this could just purely be, again, just kind of normal business, but it is an area where, like you said, that one of the benefits of it is that you don't have to go through all that same process. But from a security perspective, it's not the best. I mean, I've been on those flights, and I've been in those situations, and it's sometimes, kind of almost surprisingly so, like how little, really screening there is. And you're like, wow, it's like it. So again, just some perspective there that maybe there's more here going on. But hard to say, and we would never know. Let's put it that way. So anyway, just a little different perspective, but I hear you from a business perspective. I mean, probably all the providers in that space are more like, hey, look, adding more regulation and then effectively more cost is not, certainly not helping their business model at all. So I can't imagine they're getting a lot of love from that community right now. So anyway, yeah.
All right, fair enough. Understand risk is out there. I get it. All right, Mike, we will be right back with our guest. Mike, last week we added a new sponsor, Safe Travel RX. This is an app that, quote unquote, takes the worry off your itinerary, providing travel peace of mind with emergency response components, travel security, and risk management, especially for those traveling internationally. It includes 24/7 global concierge assistance. Landed in the hospital in China? Forgot your prescription? Wallet stolen? Safe Travel RX is your prescription for better travel. Your thoughts on it, Mike?
No, just to say, again, great product, really checks all the boxes in terms of all the functionality, features, more than anything other product out there in the market. And I've been using it, for years. It's really nice. It's a really added kind of sense of, I'd say, comfort when you're, especially again, traveling internationally, but really anywhere where, again, at a touch, you can get the kind of support you need in case of a medical emergency of any kind. It just kind of puts you at where, like, your needed medical records are at a fingertips. Again, the support when you when you press the button and if you did need help, or you've got an emergency of some kind, it does feel really good, not just for you, but for your loved ones at home and for the company in terms of providing some duty of care solutions, which has become, a bigger part of what companies are needing to do, should be doing as part of their whole policy. So again, great company and great app. And this is now, one of those things too, where, people always talk about, oh, is it like a new app? It's like, yeah, well, it's been from years and years of iteration testing, again, really putting it to the test in terms of the product itself. So again, tried and true product, but really good. And we're certainly happy to have them as a sponsor.
All right. Download it today to discover the power of Safe Travel RX and reach out to them if you have interest in offering this tool to your travelers to provide them the duty of care you are required to provide. Safe Travel RX, your prescription for better travel. All right, Mike, on to our guest.
Yeah.
Today, please join me in welcoming Christal Bemont, CEO of Direct Travel. Christal is a travel and technology executive with over 25 years of experience scaling high-growth companies, and currently serves as CEO of Direct Travel, a market leader in corporate travel management. Formerly the CEO of Talon, Christal led the data management company's successful transition to the cloud. Previously, Christal spent over 15 years at Concur in progressive go-to-market roles, driving substantial revenue growth. Mike, please join me in welcoming Christal Bemont.
Hey guys.
Christal, welcome.
Hi, how are you?
Good. Thanks for joining us today.
Nice to see you.
Very timely.
Well,
congratulations on your new role.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And certainly exciting times for not only Direct Travel, but the overall, kind of perfect trip world that's been put together here, and what that means for competition in the marketplace.
Yep.
So again, we say, like, you're joining at a very exciting time, also very chaotic time in the market. Never a dull moment in travel, certainly in corporate travel. Got to ask the question, why'd you take the job? What excited you about the role? Maybe, and a bit also.
Why wouldn't I take the job? This is an incredible. Wow. This is an incredible. It's a really fair question. It's a well, first of all, let me start with, I think there's two things going on. Let me start with Direct Travel. For those of you who don't know, let me tell you what makes it exciting at Direct Travel is the people. You're going to probably hear a common theme in many of the things we talk about. And it's thinking about, how do we show up for people? How do we take care of people? And you can only do that when you have amazing people that are at the helm, servicing customers. And so I'm really, really excited about the company, because of the human beings that make up that company are just really, really world class. So that's first. But you made a point about how much is going on. With chaos comes opportunity. It also comes responsibility. And I think we're going to have, in the next 5 years, more innovation than that's happened in the last 20 combined. And so who doesn't want to be part of both of those things? It's a really special time. I'm pumped to be here.
Well, I'm glad. So having said that, now you walk in, you got, with all of this, like, you've got funding behind you, you've got your part, certainly, ready to, certainly going to go do battle with, some formidable players. What keeps you up at night? What are your worries coming into the job, that right out of the gate?
Yeah, I always think about the customer. And, look, there's a lot of opportunity, like I said, in front of us. And I take it to heart that it's our responsibility to make sure our customers end up on the right side of this. And, change is a good opportunity, but it's also something you have to help people lead through. And the things that keep me up at night is what our responsibility is and what our role is in helping our customers through this. Because I think in the end, many of the things that are going on are disruptive in some ways. And, I know you've talked about NDC on some of your past conversations, and I know you had Sarosh on. And so, look, everything that kind of comes, it's still change, even when it has a lot of opportunity, with it. So that's what keeps me up, is how do we help our customers and make sure that we put them on the right side of this so that they ultimately get what they deserve.
Yeah, I mean, that's what, with this, I mean, again, you mentioned NDC and American, but Yeah, look, I mean, to me, it was like there was a lot of the game plan, certainly the game plan around the industry and around NDC and around, that was fine. It was
Yeah.
forcing change rather than bringing people along with you, right, and finding that right balance. And they didn't find the right balance, right, and so now they have to pay a price for it in a sense, right, and now and restart, and that gets expensive and costly, right, and so I mean, again, it's like you're right. It's like you're right. There is a responsibility that comes with kind of shepherding everybody through that change, and certainly all the employees too, because look, no one's naive, right? Change is coming, and it's like it comes back to how does this affect me, right? And you got to get people, like, try to get people on board. You said you got good people there, but you got to lead them through a process, and there's urgency because of the competitive nature, but also you got to be a little patient with everybody too, right? It's striking that balance. It's not easy.
It is. And you bring it up, you've got a good point there, Mike, because I think, with yeah, and it is what came to mind when you're asking about, we're talking about change and people, it's and leading them through. It's, I think, American in particular, they're a resilient company, and they're, and I think they're right sizing this ship. And I think they're doing the right thing here. But at the end of the day, on the other side of the coin, it is a forcing function. And we all know NDC has been out there for a very long time. And I guess it's not what you do, it's how you do it, and that thoughtfulness to it, and striking that balance, like you said. And there will be many more of these inflection points. And so as I think about it, where we sit, we want to be right there for our customers and make sure that we are, one, anticipating these things as much as we can, but also participating in helping them through it. And that's just the reputation Direct Travel's built, and I intend on keeping that.
So you've come with like a lot of expectation. I mean, Steve kind of laid out the perfect trip, and he said, this is why I'm doing this and putting these companies together. But in your own words, like, what does that mean to you? How do you think about the perfect trip? Is there such a thing? Like, we've all had good trips, but perfect, I don't know. But how do you look at it? What's your definition?
Yeah, well, there's a few things here that are, I think, are good to kind of lay the foundation around. One is, when he brought up the perfect trip many years ago, we were at Concur together, and it sounded incredible. And I'm like, what is this perfect trip? And I mean, the pain of being a business traveler, we all know what that is. I'm like, I'm in on the perfect trip, wherever that perfect trip is. And if I can be part of it, I'm in. At the time when he brought it up, it was about digitizing the experience and kind of tying some of the steps together. And it was always about the traveler and making sure that, taking care of the traveler. I think a lot has changed. And so this is one of the basic premises I've just come to believe, is that you're always on a quest for the perfect trip. So that's number one. As a party that's responsible in part or in total for whatever leg of that journey that you have influence over, it's like kind of your house. You never really stop working on your house. There's always going to be things to fix or enhance. And it's like one of those things. It's the same thing with the perfect trip. There's going to be things outside of your control. So it's never going to be perfect in the way that you're going to be able to control all those elements. But in the areas where you can, it's what are the things that you can do to improve? And I just think we're in such a different time than we were years ago when this first came up. And it shifts from just digitizing the steps to thinking about, how do you personalize to the individual? How do you anticipate what they need? How do you think about different connections with the individual and the individual and the traveler as it relates to suppliers, not just air, hotel, and car, but what other kinds of things do they encounter along their trip? And the last thing I'll say is this: what does the perfect trip mean to you versus someone who's taking their very first business trip ever? It means something very different. And it's, what we know about traveling is something very different. So it's really is about understanding that individual, and then contemplating everything from telling them, where to go park their car, because that's not a natural thing, or where to get in line or the queue at the what time of day it is, and then how long you're going to be standing in TSA. Like, there's just some things when you're, road warrior, So anyway, the perfect trip is something that is you're never going to complete that quest for it. And I think the time right now is really incredible for showing up in a really material way to really personalize and anticipate the traveler's needs.
Well, what I love about it, and I've said this before, but I remember Steve when early days of Concur, when he was evangelizing how simple thing, like seemingly at the time it was revolutionary, like we're going to automate the whole expense part of it, and then
Yeah.
that's now going to, and I was like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
but he's like, no, 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 this is going to like basically create a whole environment where now the power of that information can change the whole travel process. And he was right. But at the early days, like people are just like, oh, it's another, way to, maybe automate a little bit of the, back end on the expense and all that, audit, et cetera. It's like, well, yeah, it is those things, but it's much, much, much more. And, here we are. And I think to your point about the different inflection points, I think we're at another one. I think right now the convergence of the tech, bringing AI into the picture in a meaningful way, right, in a responsible way, blending that with service, bringing in all these different elements. Meanwhile, airline pricing, hotel pricing is all going to change and going very dynamic. I mean, we've got a whole thing now that's it's exciting, right? To your point, but also, comes with a lot, right? And then also a lot of resources are required. And I'll kind of go to the next question. Now you've got, we've got a crowded marketplace now. You've got, Amex CWT merging. You've got, BCDs out there, and Navan's going public next year. Travel Perk just raised another 160 million and acquired, Amtrak. Like everybody's eyeing this market, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how do what do you think for direct travel? Like, how do you compete? Like, what's going to be your differentiators?
Yeah. Well, I think, you brought up a couple things, and if I just peel the layer back a little bit into some of the things you're saying, it's the way we look at it is this. If we go back to Steve being a little bit even maybe before his time on the perfect trip, like all the things that he said and wanted to do, he was able to do with what we had to work with. But there was one thing that was really, I think, the limiter that's been holding this whole industry back, and that's the infrastructure. That really, when you start talking about, Mike, the things that you were just mentioning, what enables the true personalization and the true openness and connectiveness? It's limited by the infrastructure that's a bit archaic and been holding us back. And so when I think about direct travel in particular, first of all, there's a first principle of have to be modernized and open, cloud-based infrastructure.
Yep.
I mean, that just has to be the foundation by which we're operating on everything. And then you have to think about, what are the best in class or world class solutions that our travelers and the travel managers and even our suppliers need to be able to really deliver value in a way that kind of starts to show up in some things you're talking about, like how, dynamic pricing and merchandising and things of that nature. Like we really need to be able to serve our customers in a much in a much different way than we can or have been able in the past. So first of all, it starts with that as the foundation. But the thing that I started with in terms of the thing that I'm really incredibly excited about direct travel and why it's a perfect combination is no matter how great the technology is, you're still always going to need people, at least in my lifetime. And maybe need them just changes. The need in terms of how you need them changes. And so I have to tell you, it's funny because I use my phone and I don't really want to use it to call people that often. I just want to use it to get things done as quickly as possible. I actually sometimes don't want to use the phone for calling at all. And it's like the thing was developed to make phone calls, but yet it's not what I really want to use it for. It's really ironic. And but there's times where I'm like, nope, I don't want to chat. I don't want to, whatever it might be. I want to actually speak to someone because it's at that critical moment. So look, service and showing up for your customers when and how they need you and taking care of them in the ways that this company has built a reputation on. It's the perfect combination of the modern infrastructure with world-class, best-in-class technology, coupled with really carefully curated ways to help support our customers when and how they need it. And I also think the thing that I mentioned before that I'll just kind of peel away here a little bit is, I'm challenging us to think about how do we continue to evolve the value that we bring to not just the travelers, but the companies they serve? Because as we think about this change management, how do we show up for them? How do we show up not for only for the travelers to take advantage of some of these things, but the travel managers and the people that are running these programs? And booking 7 days in advance used to be part of your policy. Is that now with dynamic pricing the best way to, is that still a thing? So there's just being able to really curate the way that we help our travelers, travel managers, and the suppliers, because they've been missing in this equation as well in terms of being able to really personalize to the travelers. So I'm really thinking about how we show up differently, as an evolution, not in replacement for what we're doing, but just as the times evolve, because that change management aspect you brought up is something that's really important for us to be part of.
Christal, one question. So I assume the modern infrastructure you're talking about essentially is the Spotnana piece to the Steve Singh puzzle. Does that mean direct travel will have to invest less in infrastructure and technology because Spotnana is handling that for you? And then a follow-on, Spotnana works with other TMCs, so that part won't really be a competitive advantage for direct travel since they work with other TMCs unless they will stop.
Yeah. So, well, first of all, it's really, when we look at it, it's everything from booking and making sure content is king, as we all know. So, which is why Spotnana, expense reporting and how to actually eliminate the expense reporting, which is near and dear to both Steve and I, our heart from a long time ago. That'll probably never get out of our blood.
Yeah, I was going to say, I guess you guys know a little bit about that part of the market.
We know a little bit about, integrated travel and expense. And, the thing that no one's really done a great job of in terms of just fully in the planning and the booking and all the carefully curated things is group meetings and events, in the way that Troop has, uniquely started to address that in the market. So it's really a comprehensive look at the technology stack, if you will. And so let me tell you what's really important about the second part of the question you asked is, first of all, this is a very big market, and there's a lot of room for a lot of players in here. So I don't think this is a winner takes all. I think to serve customers, you really, there's places where each one of us maybe have a particular, competitive advantage, or maybe a particular value that we bring to a customer. And so there's plenty of room for, for the people in this space. But what I'll say is, the reason why you want to have a modern architecture is that you can innovate on top of it. It's not just stopping at those technology stacks. It's how you bring them together in a connected way, and how you overlay other things on top of it. Like we were just talking about AI, conversational AI, which has, a long way to go in terms of using AI in the ways that I think the future will be able to really, perform functions for a traveler, for example. But I think that when we talk about using technology stacks, you guys actually talk about it on one of your previous podcasts, actually, about the benefits of having that independence of people being able to build the best in class and world class technology, and us being able to plug that in. I'm here for that all day long. And so that's what's really important. And Spotnana can serve an industry, and then we can take it, leverage it, spend our time, money, and resources on the things that are really important, that we're really good at, and then build on top of it to continue to round out that experience. And I just think that's an incredible place that we can be, that we can continue to deliver unique value and show up for our customers.
Yeah, that Sarosha's thing about somebody has to clean the gutters, right? I mean, that's the reality, right? There's a lot of these capabilities that, in theory, right, they're important, they're critical. You have to have them as critical infrastructure. But to your point, it isn't that. That's not necessarily the differentiating. That's just the getting you out of the starting gate.
It's like table stakes. Yeah. That's like the table stakes. And when you have an organization like Spotnana waking up every single day, knowing exactly what success looks like, and they can dedicate their time and resources and energy to that, rock on. And then the same thing with Center, and the same thing with Troop. And then we are the recipients of that. That allows us to keep our focus on, the people aspect of this, and how we connect those together. And for me, my whole life in my professional world has been about creating outcomes for the people we serve. How do we create the best possible outcome for the travelers, the companies they serve and those travel managers, and then the suppliers. And I just wake up every day thinking, how do we leverage that along with these incredible resources we have to show up in an incredibly unique and differentiated way? And that'll keep evolving because of all the things we talked about. And we hope to be in front of it and leading it, as you know, is in the DNA of Mr. Singh and myself.
So I'm gonna quote you from.
Okay.
We do a little bit of research before we bring people on, but in 2020 you had a Forbes profile about you, and you were quoted. You said, "There's a perception that the industry is really inventive, but we don't move quickly enough. I think COVID has shown a light on areas where we're really behind. For example, the number of businesses that lack the digital infrastructure and strategy to mitigate this changing landscape has been massive." You weren't even talking about the travel industry then, but I read it. I thought you could have. I actually looked at the article and I thought, oh, that
sounds like us.
It was like yesterday, right?
Yeah.
But it really does apply to the travel industry. I thought it was I just thought it was an interesting perspective of kind of thinking how, to your point, like the way you said it too about it kind of showing a light on it. I think it did. I mean, I think it did for the travel industry too, because we came back and that recovery and all that went with it, and it drove everyone to say, wow, we got to come back, build it back better, and certainly more efficient, because we can't keep doing business the same way we were doing it in 2018 and 19. And I do think it actually one of those things that it was a consequence or an outcome of COVID and the recovery ultimately. I mean, businesses survived, but if you're still using the same playbook, you're not going to make it. I mean, you won't. No. You may have survived COVID, but you won't survive the next 2 or 3 years. Like
what industry were you talking about, if not travel?
Yeah.
Okay, so that was the time when I was leading talent, as you've mentioned, in terms of the prior role, and so my whole, for several years was just focused on how organizations leverage data, which is ironic because spending 15 years at Concur and then several years at Talent, I think it was just such a unknowingly at that time, knowing where I'm at now, such an important journey, because it just all like fit. And so at Talent, I saw firsthand over and over and over, and especially during COVID, when having accurate information and information you could trust and all the information. So each of these components were so important, and then how applicable to the travel industry, and how important to the success of AI, the ability to trust the data and to have trust in AI, and the ability to have all the data, the connectedness, which is, why it's so important to think about what our customers need. They need access, they need choices, they need options. And it's funny how those principles, whether it was there, because that was a very normalized conversation across all different kinds of businesses. It certainly sits in the heart of what's going on in travel right now. And it was a great opportunity to learn about how important it is, and then to apply it here at Direct Travel. It's part of the reason why I'm so excited about what's possible.
Yeah. Well, so our closing questions, one we've been using for each of our podcasts, but we say at each of our guests, we say, when you look ahead to the future, we always talk about what's changing, and clearly that's always the focus. But name something you don't think will change for the travel industry.
I'll go back to my core belief, people. I think what won't change is, I think fear drives a lot of people in thinking we're going to replace all the people and there won't be a human being that's going to be needed. And I just think that couldn't be further from the truth. I just think that it's more about leveraging people when you need them and in the ways you need them, because when you really do have a challenge, you were talking about it with your sponsor, you need to know that people are on the other side of that phone call. And that's what's not going to change, is the need for people and the need to really service people in an incredible way.
I couldn't agree with you more. But thank you so much for coming on today. And
oh goodness, my pleasure. Thank you for having me. It really was a great pleasure to be here with you.
Wow, and you making a very compelling case for Direct Travel. So again, and good luck with everything in your new role.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Christal. Thank you to Christal Bemont, CEO of Direct Travel. Thank you, Christal. All right, Mike. Very good. We will be back shortly with headwinds and tailwinds.
So I want to take a minute and talk about our sponsor, BLS Company. 5 decades of experience, 5 decades, right? Great family business founded and led by Phyllis Ocon. She's the matriarch of BLS. Her and her husband founded the company in their kitchen, 50 plus years ago. Amazing story. But they have worldwide coverage. They're an industry leader in duty of care. Again, for all of your ground transportation needs, everything from, black car on up through any form of bus and, transportation, any need, any market. Contact the Ocon family, Phyllis, their sons, Michael and Eric, who are, actively involved in running the business. Great family business at BLS.
All right. Thank you, Mike. And now we will wrap with headwinds and tailwinds, where we identify what we think is adding value to travel or taking it away. Mike, you're up first with tailwinds.
Yeah, this is a fun one. There was an article that came out in Forbes. It was about an airline, a business class airline called La Compagnie. The CEO was just talking about and celebrating 10 years in business and how they've been able to survive. And I love these stories for the industry, certainly in the airline industry. Been so many airline brands that have come and gone, trying to compete, trying to get a foothold against, the major players in the market. But it's always great to see when someone has made it and is really providing a value-added service to the market. And in this case, to again, to business class customers, they're charging very competitive rates for a really nice product and giving you a little bit of that kind of mix of kind of private aircraft feel, but again, obviously good for your average business traveler. So again, nice to see and love those stories.
All right, very good. You had tailwinds today. That means I've got headwinds. And I was reading an article, Mike, and the quote was, "Why haven't you resigned? Senators grill the Boeing CEO over safety records." And look, they had a heated exchange while they questioned the Boeing CEO, Dave Calhoun, about the company's safety record, whistleblower allegations, his pay. Look, Boeing is so critical to our overall industry. They simply must get their acts together. And they really need to take action here, Mike. Things have not gotten any better. Incidents continue to occur. While aviation and travel remain tremendously safe, Boeing really still needs to get things together. And if that starts with Dave resigning or finding other ways to improve things, they've got to find a way. And until they do, I believe Boeing will remain a headwind for the industry overall.
Yeah, so good perspective, and I agree. I'm going to come at it a couple different ways too. One is that the problems at Boeing have been years and years and years in the making. Regimes of at the helm of making decisions that have ultimately put them in the place they're in today. Without recapping all of those, they've been written about now at length. But I think the thing that puzzles me is why they haven't gotten their act together, even from a PR perspective, to be able to go out and say very aggressively, like, here's the things we're doing. Here's our long-term plan. Here's the changes we need to make. It's going to take time to do them, but we're going to win your trust back. And we're committed to building world-class aircraft like we did years ago. And we will do whatever it takes to get there. Where is that message?
Yeah.
I'm just stunned. I mean, I feel like they're on their heels. They're just playing defense all the time at a time when you're like, wait a minute, like, what are you doing? I mean, this is kind of like, 101 stuff that you do. And again, I just don't get it. Like, I don't understand. Where's the leadership part of this that says, look, guys, we've got a lot to do here to get back to a place we're going to get to, but we're going to do that. Now, if that means there has to be leadership change, then that's what it means. But I don't know. I mean, I'm not on the inside. I've never met Dave Calhoun. I don't know his leadership team. I don't know what they're, But man, the fact that they haven't tried to quiet the noise, like, and address these situations, like, I just don't get it.
Yeah.
I don't get it. And to your point, it's so critical to our industry that they get it.
Yeah. And until they do, I'm going to keep it on the list of headwinds for sure.
Yep, a big one. But
all right, Mike, thank you. That is our show today. Thanks again to our sponsors, BLS and Safe Travel RX, and we will see you back here shortly. Thanks again, Mike.
See you, Ed.